There is a specific kind of heaviness that settles in the chest when you have been betrayed. It's not just anger. It's a physical weight. It's the replay button in your mind that loops the exact moment they lied to you, the moment they walked out, or the moment they stole from you. You wake up with it, you go to sleep with it. And if you are a Christian, you have this added layer of torture called guilt. You sit in church and recite the Lord's Prayer. Forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And you feel like a fraud because you know deep down you haven't forgiven them. You actually kind of hope they fail. And then you wonder, does that mean God hasn't forgiven me? You are trapped in a prison where you are both the warden and the inmate. The problem is that we view forgiveness as a feeling. We think we have to feel good about the person to forgive them. We think forgiveness means saying, it's okay, it didn't hurt. But the Bible paints a completely different, much grittier picture. Biblical forgiveness isn't about amnesia. It isn't about being a doormat. It is a terrifying, radical act of tearing up a valid invoice. It is the only key that unlocks the cell you are rotting in. To understand how this mechanism actually works, we have to look at the masterclass of trauma and recovery found in the book of Genesis. The story of Joseph isn't just a Sunday school cartoon. It is a horror story. Imagine being 17 years old. You are the favorite son, sure, maybe a little arrogant, wearing a coat that screams, "I'm the special one." But you trust your family. Then, in one afternoon, your entire reality shatters. You look into the eyes of your own brothers, the people who are supposed to have your back, and you see murder. They strip you. They throw you into a pit. Listen to the silence of that pit. The cold realization that your own blood wants you dead. Then, the transaction. 20 pieces of silver. You are sold like a piece of furniture to foreign slave traders. Joseph spends the next decade and a half in a descending spiral of injustice. He is a slave. Then he is falsely accused of rape. Then he is a prisoner in a dungeon, forgotten by the very people he helped. If anyone had a right to be bitter, to let hate metabolize in his veins until it turned him into a monster, it was Joseph. He had the victim card, and he could have played it for the rest of his life. But fast forward, Joseph rises. Through a divine sequence of events, he becomes the prime minister of Egypt. He holds the power of life and death over the entire known world. And then, the famine hits. And who walks through the door, begging for bread? The brothers. The men who stole his life. This is the moment Hollywood would script a revenge scene. Joseph has the power to crush them. He could imprison them, torture them, or starve them, and it would be legal justice. But he does something that breaks the logic of the human ego. He weeps. He weeps so loud the Egyptians outside can hear him. And he says the sentence that changes the trajectory of human history. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good. This is the first pillar of biblical forgiveness, the reframing. Joseph didn't say, "What you did wasn't bad." He said, "You meant it for evil." He acknowledged the sin, but he realized that God is a master weaver who takes the dark threads of human malice and weaves them into a tapestry of redemption. Joseph realized that holding on to bitterness would only poison his own soul, but releasing it allowed him to see that his pain had a purpose, the saving of many lives. He realized he wasn't a victim of his brothers. He was an instrument of God. But maybe you're thinking, that's great for Joseph, but he became a prince. I'm still hurting. Let's go deeper. Let's go to the story Jesus told that dissects the anatomy of the human heart like a surgeon, the prodigal son. We usually focus on the son running away, but look at the insult. The younger son goes to his father and says, "Give me my inheritance." In Middle Eastern culture, this is the equivalent of saying, "Dad, I wish you were dead. You are taking too long to die, and I want your stuff now." It is a breathtaking rejection. The son leaves. He burns the money on wild living. He ends up in a pigsty, which for a Jewish boy is the ultimate uncleanliness, starving to death. He decides to go home, not as a son, but as an employee. He drafts a contract in his head. "I will work for you to pay you back." He is trying to earn his way back into the house, but the father shatters the contract. He sees the son from a long way off and runs. Jewish patriarchs do not run. It is undignified. It requires hiking up their robes and exposing their legs. The father humiliates himself to get to the son faster. He doesn't even let the son finish his apology speech. He calls for the robe, the ring, the sandals. He restores him instantly to full status. This is the vertical axis of forgiveness. God doesn't just tolerate you, He runs to you. He doesn't put you on probation, He throws you a party. But there is a warning in this story. The older brother, the guy who stayed home, the guy who followed the rules. He hears the music and refuses to go in. He is furious. He says, "I slaved for you for years and you never gave me a goat." Listen to his language. I slaved. He didn't see himself as a son. He saw himself as an employee. He was in the father's house, but his heart was in a far country. The older brother represents the terrifying reality that you can be religious, moral, and right, and still be completely lost because of unforgiveness. He couldn't celebrate grace because he was too obsessed with fairness. Forgiveness is unfair. That is the point. If it was fair, it would be justice, not forgiveness. So how do we actually do this? How do we forgive the unforgivable? We have to go to the cross. Picture Jesus at Golgotha. The physical pain is blinding, nerves severed, lungs collapsing. But the emotional pain is worse. The mockery, the rejection, the naked shame. And in the middle of active torture, Jesus gasps out a prayer. He doesn't pray for pain relief. He prays for his torturers. "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they are doing." He invented an excuse for them. He attributed their malice to ignorance. He refused to let their hatred change his nature. Jesus explains the logic of this in the parable of the unmerciful servant. A man owes the king 10,000 talents. Let's do the math. A talent was about 20 years of wages. 10,000 talents is millions, potentially billions of dollars. It is an impossible national debt level of money. The servant begs, and the king cancels it, all of it. Gone. That same servant walks out and finds a guy who owes him 100 denarii. That's like a few $1,000. A significant amount, sure, but payable. The servant chokes him and throws him in jail. The king is furious. He calls the servant wicked. Why? Because he failed to understand the economics of the kingdom. Here is the hard truth. You are the servant with the 10,000 talent debt. Every sin, every selfish thought, every rebellion against God was a debt you could never pay. And at the cross, God wrote, "Paid in full in his own blood." He absorbed the cost. When you refuse to forgive someone else, you are saying, "God, I will take your billion-dollar forgiveness, but I'm going to choke this guy for his $10. It is monstrous hypocrisy. The power to forgive doesn't come from your willpower. It comes from your realization of how much you have been forgiven. Forgiveness is not a feeling. It is a legal transaction. It is you standing before the judge and saying, "I am dropping the charges. I am tearing up the IOU. They don't owe me anymore." You hand the debt over to God. You say, "God, you deal with this. You are the judge, not me." When you do that, you might not feel better instantly. The memory might still hurt, but the chain is broken. You are no longer tethered to that person by hate. You are free to walk out of the prison. The door was unlocked the whole time. You just had to let go of the handle.